really nice hotel right in the centre of town. Couldn't say a bad word. Food was lovely and very good, and most importantly, the bed was great for riding my wife.
Indeed, among the reviews for the approximately 200 million establishments on Google Maps, you are bound to find some trolls. Comments that are admittedly quite funny if you are a fan of dark humor like me. But most reviews are fairly standard. You visit a place, you don't like it, you leave a review. You like it, you leave a review. Sometimes. And all of that, the sentiment tied to an establishment, is valuable information. Information that can be gathered through the Google Maps API. But then, what exactly can we do with this API? How do we use it? And how can we leverage Google reviews to benefit our business? Hi, I'm François from Scrub.io, and today we are diving into Google Maps reviews. Let's start with the basics. If you are still here, I'm guessing you already know what an API is, but we haven't yet defined what the Google Maps API is. And let's just say it's no small task. If you look at the Google Maps platform, the Google Maps API is actually dozens of different APIs grouped into 4 categories: maps, routes, places, and environment. We have already made a general video about the Google Maps API, so we won't repeat what we have already covered. Let's focus on what matters to us here: accessing the details of a Google Maps listing. To do that, we will use the Place Details API. But before diving in, let's ask ourselves, why are these business listings so important to us? Because they contain everything we need when it comes to reviews. The overall rating, the number of reviews, the breakdown of rating shown in graphical form, but there is also information tucked away in the source code, hidden but accessible. And if we take it a step further, under the Reviews tab, we can scrape a sample of the latest reviews. And also we can get a glimpse of commonly used keywords. Finally, there is what we will call the trend analysis, meaning comparing the 5 elements mentioned over different time periods. Now, I don't know if you have noticed, but we are dealing with 2 different scenarios here. First, there is segmentation data, such as a rating, the number of reviews, and the ratings breakdown. These are perfect for prospecting. With these 3 pieces of information, we can easily classify our leads. Some have a rating above 4, others below 3. Boom, 2 groups. Some have a good rating but fewer than 10 reviews, others have 100 reviews or more. Boom, 2 campaigns. Some are universally loved, others collect mostly 1-star rating. Boom, 2 variables. On the other hand, we have what we could call analytical data. These are ideal for competitive intelligence or internal strategic monitoring. As you have probably guessed, these include review samples and keywords. So, we end up with 2 objectives: a pragmatic goal helping you effectively target your prospects, and a more specialized goal useful for deeper analysis. Now one question remains: with the Google Maps API, can we, yes or no, address these 2 challenges? And the best way to answer these questions is to give it a try. So what we are going to do is to scrape a particular listing on Google Maps, and to be more specific, we are going to extract every reviews related data, meaning the display name, the rating, the number of reviews, the ratings breakdown, and we'll see if we can also get a sample of reviews and the list of the keywords used. We might start by going to maps.platform.google.com, and if I click on start, I might end up to this URL, console.cloud.google.com, and this is a place in which we will create our project and set up our API. Let's first create a project, shall we? Select a project, new project, I give a name to my project, and I click on create. And I click on select project. Then we have to enable the API we expect to make use of. We are going to use the Place Details API. So we might find it under the API on Services tab, and let's jump into library. I type here my API. We have two kinds of API, Places API new or Places API. It's always better to pick up the most updated version. Click on it and I enable my API. And this is where the fun begins. We have our API key. So far I'm going to copy and paste it somewhere. Okay, everything is more or less set up. But before writing our code, we might determine what will be our input, meaning what piece of data we start with to scrape our rating pieces of information. Because an input such as Belmont University, it's not going to work. We need something more precise. And actually we need to get a place ID. But how can we do that? Well, fortunately I found out a URL in which I can find the ID of a particular place without using another set of APIs, which would have made the exercise much more complicated. I simply insert my location, voila, and I have access to my place ID. Copy and paste it below my API key. Now it's time to write some code. So I've taken a look at the place details documentation. At the very end, we should end up with something like this. I have my function getPlaceDetails based on the place ID, which we have, the API key, we have that too, the fields, meaning the data I'm about to extract, and the language code, our parameters, and our response. Finally, we save our result to a JSON file. I also want to get how many reviews I'm able to extract. Okay, we can run our task. And I have my JSON file. We do have access to the ratings, the user rating count, the display name, and a sample of reviews. I only have access to 5 reviews. So it raises another question. Can we get more? And the answer is yes, but under some circumstances. I found out another interesting URL, work with review data. We have access to a lot of options, and amongst them we can list all reviews, which is what we ultimately want to do. And it seems that in order to list all reviews, we have to get an account ID first. And to get an account ID, we have to be the owner of the establishment. And to be the owner of an establishment, we have to claim our listing on Google Maps. And to claim our listing on Google Maps, we have to create an account on Google Business Profile. And to create an account on Google Business Profile, we have to fill in the form until the end, and then it's okay. Now we can scrape all reviews. So to conclude, yes, we can scrape the reviews, but there is an important entry barrier. On the other hand, the good news is that we can perfectly scrape segmentation data. What might wonder, is there another option helping us gathering a rating related data? And I found out something. This solution is called Scrap.io. Scrap.io is the ultimate tool for scraping Google Maps. Very easy to use, but like very easy. We simply insert a category and a location, and voila, we have access to our data. I can also filter my data out. If I want to filter my data based on the number of reviews, I can do that. If I want to filter my data out based on the rating, I can do that. And by clicking the link in the description, you have access to your first 100 leads free of charge. But also with Scrap.io, we have access to an API. Let's take a look, shall we? So the API is here. The locations subtab and the search subtab are useful for us. Let's say a quick word for the locations API. As you have noticed, Scrap.io applies 4 different criteria: the country, the level 1 division, the level 2 division, and the city. Within the API, it's called the admin 1 code, the admin 2 code, the country code, and the city. With this API, we might find out the ID of the admin 1 code and the admin 2 code. It's not useful for what we want to do, but in some cases, it might be interesting. Okay, let's take an example. example. I copy and paste the content from this API, and I simply have to correctly determine my parameters. Let's assume I want to know the admin1 code. So the type is admin1, and as a search term, so the level 1 division for the United States is the state. If I want to target Nashville, the state is Tennessee. So in the search term, I type Tennessee. And also, I have to obviously implement my API key. But how do I do that? I click on the security tab, API key, I give a name, I click on create. Here is my API key. So the full key is bearer plus my key. So with this API, we know for sure that the admin1 code of Nashville is TM, which actually makes a lot of sense. Okay, but now what's more interesting is the search API, because with search API we can get Google Maps leads at scale. So same thing as before, I've simply copy and paste this code, and I've added a couple of query parameters, because some of them are actually filters. As parameters, there are the country code, the city, the type. I've picked up restaurant because it is the most popular query on Google Maps. And I've added two other filters. Gmap reviews con LTE is equal to 10 and Gmap reviews rating LTE is equal to 3. Both these parameters imply Gmap's reviews count less or equal than 10 and Gmap's review rating less or equal than 3. And if I run my Python file, I have access to my data. To be more specific, I have access to 10 establishments. Of course, if I wanted to scale my request, I would have taken the next cursor into account. I have forgotten to tell you something. Of course, the results I've shown you are not exhaustive, because on this example, I've only shown you the name, the reviews count, the review rating, and the reviews per score, but obviously you have access to much more columns. This is the end of the video. If you have enjoyed it, you can subscribe. If you have any questions, you can contact our customer support. There is nothing else to see. The end.